Now that we know how to launch the app on different devices, let's dive deeper into which tools we have to effectively debug it. And with debug it, I mean things like solving errors, finding logical errors in our code, and also things like checking what is responsible for rendering the user interface in the way we see it, as well as some performance monitoring. We can do all of that very conveniently with the help of Flutter and some special tools Flutter gives us. So in our code here, what could go wrong? There are different kinds of errors you can get when building a Flutter app. One of the most common errors, and thankfully also a kind of error that is relatively easy to fix, is the syntax error. For example, you might forget a semicolon from time to time. In such a scenario, when you start your app with or without debugging, doesn't matter, you should automatically get a complaint here, and you can have a look at the errors you're getting, which you should also get here in your IDE, and also here in Visual Studio Code in the Problems tab if you go there. So there it should already hint you at some of the obvious errors you might have in your code. So that's relatively easy to fix. In addition to that, you might also have errors which aren't recognized by your IDE, but which pop up when your app runs. For example, we might have an error where we add free to our current question index, and the result will be that we exceed the range of available indexes right after answering the first question. Because we increment the index from 0 to free, we only have free elements in the list. As you learned, the list indexes start at 0, so the index free would target the fourth list element, which we don't have, and therefore this will cause an error. However, the IDE doesn't pick up that error because it doesn't analyze the data we're working with and so on. We will get an error though once we run our application. So here, let me launch the application and then show you which kind of error we get and how you can resolve such errors on your own when you get them. With the app running here, once I click a button, we get to the result screen because we don't even try to access an element with that index. That changes, however, if I try to add some code here. So here, if I take my questions and I want to print the question item for the chosen question index, then this again will be code which is accepted by my IDE, which is not detected as a problematic code, and which therefore will now, however, cause an issue once our app runs, because now I'm doing something invalid here when our application is running, so we will get a runtime error. So let me restart the quiz here. And now, whilst we don't get an error message here, sometimes you also get error messages projected right into your app user interface. Whilst that is not the case here, we do get an error here in the debug console. And that's good, because whilst this always looks scary when you see it the first time, it actually holds useful information that allows you to fix that error. Now, the important thing you have to know here is that for Flutter errors, the most helpful messages or the most helpful things are always located at the top, at the beginning of the error message. So let's scroll up all the way to the beginning of the error message. And then here we see that a range error was thrown. Okay. And that we have some invalid value, which is not in the range 0 to 2. The value seems to be free, something like this. Maybe at this point of time, you already have an idea what could be wrong. And with time, you get more and more experience and you see more and more errors. And then it's pretty clear that a range error always means that you tried to access some element in a list or in a map or anything like that, which doesn't exist there. But in case you're not entirely sure what happened, or you know what happened, but you have multiple lists in your application and you want to find out which concrete code snippet caused the error, you can look a bit further down, and then you see that it was located in the myAppState class and there in the answer question method, and it even gives you the concrete line number 68. And then you can go to your code. You can even click on that line here, by the way. You can click on that line and you see, okay, this is the line that caused the error, and now you can analyze what's the problem. And here, of course, the problem is not the line itself, but the line before that, where I set the index to an invalid value. Now, this is how you should work with such error messages and how you should read them. Don't run away when you're getting an error. Read the error message. The most important part is located at the top typically. Analyze the file and the line at which it is pointing you and find out what could be wrong there and take this as a starting point for searching the error.